They made us laugh every week as TV's most iconic father-son duo, but behind the smiles, the Sanford and Son cast was hiding secrets darker than any sitcom plot. One star's financial troubles were so severe that the IRS stripped him of everything, except for his bed. Another found himself behind bars after stealing $200,000 worth of computers. And the actor who played Grady vanished so completely that a talk show host launched a nationwide search to find him. For years, these stars kept the truth hidden. But now, the stories are finally coming to light. Take Grady Wilson. His life didn't just change, it was turned upside down. Most people still remember him as Lamont, the sharp-witted and frustrated son on Sanford and Son. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling is even more unbelievable than anything his character ever faced. At the beginning, everything seemed like it would keep moving in the right direction. Wilson was riding high, making $40,000 a week, living in a sprawling 27-room mansion, and experimenting with new projects like Baby, I'm Back and The New Odd Couple. But none of them could recapture the magic of Sanford and Son. Fame was still there, but the spark was fading. Behind the scenes, things were never as easy as they seemed. He and Red Fox worked closely together, especially when it came to the show's contract. They were each other's support system. So when Fox suddenly walked off the show in 1974, without a word to Wilson, it was more than just a business decision, it was deeply personal. When the show ended for good in 1977, Wilson could have pursued other roles, more money, more fame. But something inside him was pulling him in a different direction. He didn't know it yet, but Hollywood's spotlight was about to fade for him, for good. In 1984, everything had changed. Wilson didn't just take a break from Hollywood, he walked away entirely. He became a Pentecostal minister, leaving behind scripts and cameras for scripture and sermons. It wasn't a spontaneous choice. Wilson claimed he'd felt the calling since he was 10, inspired by his devout grandmother. The scars from his time in Vietnam ran deep, and the more he reflected, the more he saw his former life as empty. The big house, fancy clothes, and expensive jewelry, they no longer mattered. To him, it was all divine intervention. He believed that God pulled him out of Hollywood because it was time for him to do something else. Acting no longer appealed to him. He saw himself as a modern-day Jonah, running from his true purpose. But once he stopped running, everything fell into place. He found peace, the kind of peace he had never experienced, not even at the peak of his career. Wilson didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. In 1994, he founded Restoration House of America, a program dedicated to helping former prisoners rebuild their lives. This mission began long before, back when he and Red Fox used to visit inmates during their Sanford and Son days. But now, it was personal. He saw how many former prisoners kept ending up back behind bars simply because no one would give them a second chance. He was determined to break that cycle. One of the most poignant chapters in Wilson's life came years after Sanford and Son. After the show wrapped, he and Red Fox barely saw each other. Just once, in 1983. When they reunited, the emotions ran deep. They hugged, cried, and even kissed. Wilson had just returned from Africa and had heard rumors that Fox had passed away. Wasn't true, but the meeting didn't unfold the way Wilson had imagined. When producers began planning a Fox tribute special, Wilson warned them it wasn't a good idea. Something had shifted between them, and whatever it was never truly healed. Over the years, people have speculated about Wilson's private life. Some say he had several marriages, but he's been with the same woman, Cicely Lois Johnston, since 1974. Together, they've raised 6 children. Despite his past fame, he's kept most of that part of his life out of the spotlight. Now, at nearly 79 years old, Grady Wilson is the last surviving main cast member from Sanford and Son. But his legacy isn't just in reruns, it's in the lives he's touched, the people he's helped, and the peace he's found. He no longer misses the fame or craves attention. As he puts it, "I'm so happy now. I feel honored to be chosen." Red Fox was once the king of television. When Sanford and Son ended in 1977, he was raking in more money than anyone else on TV. Fox earned $25,000 an episode, plus a cut of the profits. Adjusted for inflation, that would be over $130,000 a week today. When ABC offered him an even better deal, he left NBC. Height of his success, Fox was pulling in $4 million a year. Close to $10 million today. But his fortune slipped away as quickly as it came. Fox lived large. He bought luxury cars, maintained a lavish home in Las Vegas, and always traveled with a crowd. At least 15 people were with him wherever he went, and he paid for their food, their flights, everything. In an interview, Fox laughed about it. He said, "I give money away too easily. Whatever I got goes." But his love life didn't help his finances. Fox was married 4 times, and each divorce cost him more than the last. His second marriage ended in 1974, and he was forced to pay $10,000 a month during their separation. His third wife, a cocktail waitress 20 years younger than him, walked away with $300,000 in their divorce. After that, Fox swore off marriage, saying, "The money should have gone to children, not some stranger." But just a few years later, he remarried to a woman from South Korea. Joked that she met him when he had a nickel, and he hoped she'd stick around when he had $1. "I'll give her 75 cents of it," he quipped. Then came the IRS. Fox hadn't paid his taxes for years, and his debt grew uncontrollably. Between 1983 and 1986, the amount owed skyrocketed. By 1989, he was in the red for nearly $1 million, over $2.5 million today. In 1991, the IRS raided Red Fox's Las Vegas home. They seized everything: his cars, his cash, his guns, even the jewelry off his wrist. The once unstoppable star was left with nothing but his bed. "I was treated like I wasn't human," Fox said, reflecting on the devastation. He tried to bounce back, starting with a short-lived TV show in 1986. Next, he ventured into Broadway, but that attempt failed too. By 1989, he got a role in Harlem Nights alongside Eddie Murphy. For a brief moment, it seemed like things were looking up. Then, in 1991, CBS gave him a new sitcom, The Royal Family. It looked like a real comeback. But during rehearsal, tragedy struck. Fox suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed to the floor. At first, everyone thought it was another one of his pranks. After all, a fake heart attack had been his signature move on Sanford and Son. Co-star Della Reese later remarked, "We all laughed. He did that all the time. But this time, it was real." Fox's last words were simple: "Get my wife," repeated twice. He was rushed to the hospital but passed away just a few hours later. Even in death, Fox couldn't escape his financial woes. He died owing over $3.6 million in back taxes. He didn't even have enough money for a funeral. Eddie Murphy stepped in and covered all the expenses. Fox's widow was left with nothing. His mother outlived him by 2 years, slipping in and out of a coma before she was laid to rest next to him. Wanda Page was another Sanford and Son star who found continued success after the show ended. At 57, she was more famous than ever. Unlike many actors who struggle after a breakout role, Page thrived. Her portrayal of Aunt Esther was so beloved that fans clamored for more. She was quickly brought back for 2 spin-offs, The Sanford Arms and Sanford. Neither show lasted long, but they kept her in the public eye. However, LaWanda wasn't content with just playing the same role over and over. In 1979, she joined a new series, Detective School, to try something different. In the 1980s and 1990s, she appeared on some of TV's biggest sitcoms: Our Men, 227, Different Strokes, Family Matters, and Martin. Wherever she went, she brought her signature boldness, toughness, and humor, earning the admiration of audiences. Beside her TV career, LaWanda had a successful run in comedy. Right after Sanford and Son, she released her first comedy album, Watch It Sucker, in 1977. Title came from Aunt Esther's famous catchphrase, and the album went gold. But LaWanda's comedy career didn't start with the show. She'd been making comedy records long before that, releasing 5 solo albums and 2 with a comedy group called Skillet, Leroy, and Company. People who only knew her as Aunt Esther were often shocked by her stand-up. While Aunt Esther was strict and proper, LaWanda's stage act was wild, raunchy, and full of attitude. Became known as the Queen of Comedy and the Black Queen of Comedy. Of all her albums, only one was clean. Sane Advice was released after Sanford and Son ended. Behind the scenes, life wasn't always easy for LaWanda. Despite her fame, she stayed grounded. In a 1974 interview, she said, "I don't want to leave my neighborhood. Why would I want to move? It wouldn't be me." She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She simply wanted to live her life as she always had. Family was her priority. Long before Sanford and Son, LaWanda was ready to leave show business behind to care for her mother in St. Louis. It was only because of a personal call from her childhood friend, Red Fox, that she agreed to join the show. That phone call changed everything. As she grew older, her health began to decline. Years of hard work took their toll. She developed diabetes, which worsened in the 1990s. Still, she continued performing stand-up as long as she could. Even in her 70s, her sharp tongue and bold jokes still brought down the house. Eventually, the disease caught up with her. On September 14, 2002, LaWanda Page passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 81. It was the end of an era, but her story didn't end there. Her legacy lived on in every fearless, funny, and unapologetic black female comedian who followed in her footsteps. Whitman Mayo's life after Sanford and Son didn't follow the script that most people expected. For years, Whitman Mayo was known as Grady Wilson, the slow-moving, sharp-tongued neighbor who made audiences laugh. But after Sanford and Son ended in 1977, Mayo found himself trapped in Grady's shadow. Everywhere he went, people called him by the character's name. At first, Mayo tried to push through it, but the weight of being seen as just Grady began to wear on him. In 1979, he made a bold decision. He stepped away from acting altogether and opened a travel agency in Inglewood, California. It shocked many people, but for Mayo, it was a chance to prove he was more than just a funny face on TV. He wanted control over his own life, even if it meant walking away from the spotlight. But the pull of the stage never fully left him. Just 2 years later, in 1981, Mayo returned to television in a short-lived spin-off called Sanford. He only appeared in 2 episodes, but something clicked. That brief return to acting reignited a fire in him. Over the next 2 decades, Mayo popped up in a variety of shows. He never sought the spotlight, he just wanted to act. Then in 1991, he took on a role that couldn't have been farther from Grady Wilson. On an episode of Full House, Mayo portrayed an elderly man with Alzheimer's disease. The role was emotional, raw, and deeply human. Viewers saw a completely different side of him, and critics took notice. For the first time in years, people weren't just talking about Grady, they were talking about Whitman. But just when things seemed to settle, something bizarre happened. In 1996, the team at Late Night with Conan O'Brien launched a campaign to find him. They even set up a hotline, encouraging fans to call in if they spotted him. For weeks, it became a running joke on the show. Then, one night, Mayo actually showed up. The audience went wild. It was surreal, funny, and a little touching. Suddenly, Mayo was back in the spotlight, but this time on his own terms. A couple of years earlier, in 1994, Mayo had made another unexpected change. He moved to Atlanta, Georgia, far from the Hollywood limelight. There, he began teaching drama at Clark Atlanta University. It wasn't about fame anymore. It was about passing on what he knew. His students didn't just learn acting, they learned from someone who had experienced the highs and lows of the business. Years later, his son, Ron, entered politics and became a member of the Georgia House of Representatives. It was a proud moment for Mayo. His own journey had been unconventional and full of twists, but through it all, he had stayed true to himself. Nathaniel Taylor, best known for playing Rollo Lawson on Sanford and Son, left behind a legacy of growth, reinvention, and quiet strength. His portrayal of the flashy, fast-talking friend to Fred Sanford made audiences laugh, but his life story was far more than his on-screen persona. Born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1938, Nathaniel became a household name in the 1970s with Sanford and Son. His character Rollo, loyal to Lamont despite a troubled past, appeared in 32 episodes. Even after the show ended in 1977, he reprised Rollo in the spin-off Grady and in Sanford in 1980. He also reunited with Red Fox in The Red Fox Show in 1986, though it was short-lived. Outside of Sanford and Son, Nathaniel appeared in shows like The Bill Cosby Show and What's Happening, and had roles in 1970s blaxploitation films like Troubleman and Willie Dynamite. However, in 1986, his life took a turn when he and his brother were arrested for burglary. Despite the setback, Nathaniel reinvented himself by opening a studio to teach young people acting, using his own experiences to mentor the next generation. In 2015, he had a poignant moment when he saw the restored Sanford and Son truck and signed autographs next to it, reconnecting with fans and his legacy. Nathaniel was married twice and had 7 children. He married Loretta Taylor in 2000 and stayed with her until his passing in 2019 at the age of 80. He's gone, he leaves behind a legacy not just of laughter, but of resilience, reinvention, and quiet strength. Lynn Hamilton joined Sanford and Son in the 1970s as Donna Harris, Fred Sanford's gentle love interest, portraying a dignified love story rarely seen for black women on TV. While filming Sanford and Son, she also played a dramatically different role on The Waltons, showcasing her range. When Sanford and Son returned in 1980 as Sanford, Lynn was not invited back, and Donna disappeared without explanation. Lynn's career didn't end there. She transitioned to more serious roles, including playing a judge on The Practice, and continued acting into her 70s, a rare achievement for women of color in Hollywood. Off-screen, Lynn had a long, quiet life with poet and playwright Frank Jenkins, whom she married in 1964. A nearly 50-year marriage was built on creativity and loyalty. For years, rumors circulated that Lynn was the sister of LaWanda Page, Aunt Esther, but in reality, they were close friends, not sisters. Grady Wilson later cleared up the confusion, revealing LaWanda's actual sister was also named Lynn Hamilton, but not the one everyone thought. Before Sanford and Son and the Waltons, Lynn Hamilton had a significant, lesser-known role in American history. In the early 1960s, President John F. Kennedy selected her for a cultural exchange program. She toured Europe, the Middle East, and South America with the American Repertory Theater, sharing American storytelling during the Cold War. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a vital historical experience. At 95, Lynn remains one of the last surviving cast members of Sanford and Son. Her legacy is defined by endurance, reinvention, and grace, not just one show or role. Al Williams' journey was never easy. After a tough start, he moved to Hollywood in 1968 with full custody of his 3 kids and set a 3-year deadline to make it as an actor. Worked 2 jobs and struggled to balance his personal and professional life, but fame eventually came. Known for playing Officer Smitty on Sanford and Son, Hal didn't fade away after the show. He became a steady presence in primetime TV, tackling both comedic and dramatic roles. His versatility helped him transition seamlessly from sitcoms like 227 to dramas like Roots, The Next Generations. Hal's contribution to Sanford and Son extended beyond acting. When the writers gave him and Howard Platt little dialogue, the two improvised, adding real black slang to make their scenes feel authentic and natural, a key factor in the show's success. Howard Platt played Officer Hoppy on Sanford and Son, a stiff and awkward cop who was always a step behind. Appeared in 20 episodes, gaining depth with a backstory involving his uptight mother. After the show, Howard stayed active, returning as Hoppy in Sanford and appearing in Flying High, Barney Miller, and The Bob Newhart Show. He also acted in films like Westworld, Nixon, and The Rock. Beyond acting, Howard was a singer, director, and writer, contributing to productions like Steel Magnolias and Love Letters. Don Bexley, known for playing Bubba on Sanford and Son, had a rich career before TV. Born in 1910, he broke barriers as the first black comedian to perform in the Borscht Belt, traditionally a white venue. His friendship with Red Fox led to Bexley's breakout role on Sanford and Son at age 62, marking his first time on television. Despite his age, he continued to thrive in his career, becoming a groundbreaking performer. Bexley's career was shaped by his deep friendship with Red Fox, who convinced producers to cast him as Bubba on Sanford and Son. Portrayal of Fred Sanford's lovable, slow-talking friend became iconic, and the show was a massive hit from 1972 to 1977. After the show ended, Bexley continued to appear on TV, with roles in Cheers, Hunter, Laverne and Amp, Shirley, and the part in Sparkle. He also reprised Bubba in the short-lived Sanford Arms. When Red Fox passed away in 1991, Bexley honored their friendship as an honorary pallbearer at Fox's funeral. Soon after, he appeared on Fox's final TV show, The Royal Family, playing a character attending the funeral of Fox's character, a touching scene that blurred the line between reality and acting. In the final years of his life, things became more difficult for Bexley. He suffered an injury that left him unable to care for himself. Though he had spent most of his life in Los Angeles, in 1996, Bexley moved to Hampton, Virginia, to live with a friend who helped look after him. Despite his physical struggles, he didn't stop being creative. He kept writing scripts for both stage and TV, even though none of them were ever produced. Don Bexley passed away on April 15, 1997, at the age of 87 from heart and kidney failure. At the time of his passing, he was married to Sally Bexley, and together they had 2 daughters. Bexley had been married 3 other times before, first to Ruth, then Gillian, and briefly to Patricia Bergeron. He was laid to rest in Hampton Memorial Gardens, leaving behind a legacy as a groundbreaking performer and a cherished friend.